Hey everybody, this time I want to take a look at a couple of stories that happened over the past several days. I've been extremely busy, haven't had a lot of time to look in depth into these stories, and I've had very little time to make some videos, but I'm still trying to fit them in, and we're going to look at Tennessee and North Carolina today. First, let's start with this one in Tennessee, and here it is from the AP. Tennessee expels 2 Democrats over gun control protests. My understanding is there were 3 Democrats that joined along with protests over gun control legislation, and that did violate the rules. It held up the session in the state house. So 2 of them got expelled, 1 of them narrowly survived, and I haven't seen exactly how disruptive this was yet, but if it was anything mild, I would have to say expelling an elected official would be too far, but if it did go on a while, and it was really holding up the proceedings, and it was definitely disruptive, then I think it's up for debate. So booting someone out, that does seem harsh. However, I do think if this happened the other way around, as I frequently say in politics, both sides would generally flip their opinions and their perceptions, and that's pretty much why people hate politics so much. It's very self-serving, it's very hypocritical, and I know both sides are going to make a case that you have to maintain some decorum. If you're an elected official, you have your opportunity to speak, then you have to take your votes, and then let the proceedings continue. And then the other side talks about peaceful protesting. In my opinion, a lot of times when I see protesting happening, the narrative and how the protests are framed in the media coverage usually depends on the purported motivations of the protests. In this instance, it's going to be gun control, so that's going to be portrayed more favorably than if there were protests going the other way and saying that there's too much gun control. Not all the time, but most of the time, that's how I view the coverage of the protests. It's really not so much about how peaceful it is, but the underlying issue at play. And that's the part that bothers me. If it's really only about protests and peaceful protests, then I don't really want to hear about what the issue is, because then it doesn't matter. They're allowed to protest. But I think most people know there's a lot of hypocrisy out there, so I'm not really looking at the specifics of this issue of gun control. I'm more focused on the broader political hypocrisy, and if I think expelling one of these elected members is a bit too far. So maybe you've looked more into this, and it makes sense. They should have been expelled, or maybe you think this is definitely too far. Let me know in the comments. The other story I want to cover here is in North Carolina. And here we have Tricia Cotham, a Democratic state representative. She announced she's leaving the Democratic Party and becoming a Republican, and that's especially notable because that gives the state house a veto-proof majority. And combine that with the same one in the Senate, and the Republicans can theoretically pass legislation without the governor, Democrat Roy Cooper, being able to veto or stop any of the legislation. So that is significant, especially because her district, it's not really that much of a swing district. They voted for Biden apparently by over double digits. Again, I've looked a little bit into this. The gist of what I hear is she thinks the Democrats are not all that tolerant. There's not a lot of room for free thought, and there's been threats, people coming after her and her family, and that was enough for her to flip and go to the Republicans. So my impression of this is when threats happen in politics, that usually drives people away from your cause and toward the other side. So there would be no defending any threats or any harassment or anything like that. And my other comment would be, we don't know how she's going to vote. Just because she's a Republican doesn't mean she's going to completely abandon all of her previous positions. If she did, that would make 0 sense. I would think most of her views she's still going to have, but she's going to vote just a little bit more often with the Republican agenda. But I know the Democrats are going to be worried that now the Republicans can do anything they want in North Carolina, especially having that Supreme Court, and they're upset, and some people are calling for her to resign. There should be a special election, and I guess that's up for debate. Maybe she should resign, but at the same time, she was elected, and let's see how she votes. If she changes dramatically, then sure, there's going to be calls for her to step down. But then by that time, the next election will probably be right around the corner. And this is another situation where there's a lot of hypocrisy. If this was another state where a Republican was leaving to become a Democrat, of course the Democrats are going to be cheering it on. Republicans would probably call for a resignation or a special election, and then the other side would go silent, and they wouldn't want to hear it. So it usually depends how you want to look at it. You could say that she has some ulterior motive, she's trying to advance her career and it's selfish, or you could say she's courageous and brave and she doesn't mind standing up to her party and doing what she thinks is right and what she believes in. It's always so brave when someone stands up to the other side, unless they're standing up to the side that you like. So this is all it is over and over in politics. I think people need to state one position that they are willing to apply to the other side, and then go with it. That way you're not going to just be conveniently going whichever way the wind blows. You're going to be held to the standard you present going forward. So anyway, I don't want to go on too long about this. So these are the 2 stories I wanted to cover. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts about either of these stories out of Tennessee or North Carolina? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.